Hi everyone. So, in today's episode, we'll be talking about those fiendish hyena-headed monsters, Gnolls.
Man, I love Gnolls. Like Eddie mentions, today we will be discussing the history of Gnolls in D&D, their origins, motivations, lifestyle choices, and how you can use them in your current or future gaming sessions. I'm Eugene.
And I'm Eddie. We are
The Middle-Aged Barbarians. Here on Middle-Aged Barbarians, we'd like to cover a wide array of topics, from tips and tricks on how to run your games, to class and monster analysis, media and adventure reviews, and news updates. So whether you're new to the RPG scene, or a seasoned player, an aspiring DM in the making, or a jaded veteran like us,
we invite you to stick around and subscribe and to watch this pair of guys be barbaric and tear your boredom to shreds. Mm-hmm. So let's start talking about Gnolls. A little bit of generalities. What is a Gnoll? A Gnoll in general is this fiendish, huge creature, not to the edge of, to the level of a giant, but very, very large, above 7 feet tall, with a humanoid, but it's kind of this lanky, nasty-looking humanoid, emaciated with mange, but and nasty, ratty hair, and at the head of a hyena. The very, very interesting about Gnolls is that they have been here since the beginning. They're one of the first original creations for the D&D mythos, and they're so good that they even have expanded to other systems, other mythologies. Probably they didn't register them as trademarks like some other creatures that we won't mention because they're trademarked. Yeah, and so they're here. And they've been a staple of the set, but curiously, they have never really been a main fare. They have always been kind of there, but not.
Yeah, no, they weren't. They haven't been like a popular enough, I guess, to have their own adventures or campaigns centered around.
Yeah, they're kind of there, but not there. So yeah, how did they come to be like inside the game?
Well, we'll talk about the current iteration of the game and the story that they kind of promote, because it's been changed around a little bit. So they say back in the day there was this abysmal demon lord called Yenogu, and he made his way onto the material plane, and he was causing havoc and chaos and killing everything in his path. And behind him trailed a lovely little pack of hyenas, and these hyenas would munch and devour his victims, absorbing all his abysmal funk. And these, thanks to that abysmal funk, transformed into the first Gnolls. They followed him around, partaking in the revelry, until eventually Yenogu was banished from the material plane, and the Gnolls scattered and spread around the world and took place, I guess, in everybody's heart, at least in mine. Currently, Yenogu, I hope I'm saying that right, is considered one of the most powerful and feared demon princes, and he has his own plane in the abyss. And I bet you'll never guess the name.
I mean, I've written it, but yeah, it's the plane of Yenogu. Very, very clever.
He's so powerful, he has his own named plane in the abyss.
Yeah, he's like the demon lord of poets and writers.
Of course. But before him, there was a god known as Gorlik. Let's just say Gorlik, because it sounds nasty. Yeah. And he was known as the god of hunting beasts and Gnolls. And he who originally taught the Gnolls how to hunt using hyenodons. Hyenodons are these really big prehistoric hyenas. You mentioned something off camera. They were like they would be akin to saber-toothed tigers. That's kind of like really
the
nasty.
Vibe, yeah.
And he was worshipped by the Gnolls until 4th edition came around and killed him off, or Yenogu did in 4th edition, according to the lore. Now, some Gnolls are also known to worship other gods, one of them being Erythnol, the god of hate, envy, malice, panic, ugliness, and slaughter. He is known as the Many. And something I noticed was very popular on certain forums and places while I was investigating up is a lot of people go with the more Pathfinder origin, where they say that the Gnolls were descended from that sexy demon goddess Lamashtu.
Yes.
Gotta get me some of that. Known as the demon goddess of monsters and nightmares. And she supposedly mated with a giant hyena and gave birth to the first Gnolls.
Yeah, as for you, if you do not know how Lamashu looks and the lore, she's like a female that is usually depicted pregnant because she's usually pregnant that tends to mate with whatever and give birth to. Well, she's capable as a goddess to give birth to anything
she wants, man.
anything she wants. So yeah, Gnolls.
If we're lucky and you're luckier, maybe we'll get the editor to put a picture somewhere around here, and you can be, if you don't know her already.
You can be entranced by her beauty. Yes.
Anyway, so share with us a little bit, Eddie, on how would they live? How are their societies made up?
Well, basically, they kind of follow the archetype of the evil barbaric tribe.
Okay.
That's kind of the thing that the kind of the vibe that we go with Gnolls. Basically, on the stereotype, there's kind of big brutes, but they're not really depicted as being particularly stupid. But it's most that they're really, really lazy. So
Yeah, and really, really hungry.
and really, really hungry. So what they do, the most clever thing they do, they kind of like to be slavers. They kind of also take that place. They like to raid, kill, eat, and so forth. And once they sate it, well, what's left behind, they enslave. And, I mean, you live a couple of more days or so and until you get eaten as well. But there's a little bit of hope there.
Yeah, some fleeting hope.
So, yeah. And, well, they interestingly, based on both their origin with Genoa and with Lamashu, they tend to be very protective of their young. Some evil races are not as protective. They are. That's kind of interesting. Interesting of them. They do keep their young with them. They do. I mean, they're very brutal, but they do kind of have a society with that. And well, they usually have a leader who's called a Flint, who is like this, slightly smarter. Slightly shorter, curiously, who is colored red, who has a different color. He looks different, and he's usually followed by the rest of the regular Gnolls.
They tend to venerate Flynn's because they're stronger and smarter.
Yeah, in other editions, they tended to have powers like character class levels, but I mean, it varies from system to system. They usually became sorcerers in other editions. Nowadays, it's different. But
Well, I was going to go off a tangent and talk about, remember when we had templates, but let's not go that way. We can do that later.
Oh, yeah, I remember like an adventure that had vampire flints, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
And well, the Gnolls, like most, like you said, templates, well, now we have variations, and there are different variations, which is like the Flesh Gnolls, which is kind of your basic berserker, which Gnolls are kind of berserkers. They're just attack.
There's the hunters, I think.
The hunters that work with bow and arrows, pack lords, which are kind of the leaders that organize everything.
The alpha dogs.
Yes. And we have some blessing of Yenogu, which is the Fang of Yenogu, who is a particularly brutal Gnoll, gets the powers of the well, I would call it a god, but of the deity. And they become able to create Gnolls out of either hyenas or other unsuspecting victims. And well, kind of similar to ghouls, they have witherlings, which are their undead versions that still have that ravenous hunger, and they're still back for.
I think witherlings are like a really cool idea because they're Gnolls that were killed by, I think, other Gnolls, if I'm not mistaken, and then they raise them up so they can have people fighting for them. But one of the cool things is like they like having witherlings because witherlings don't eat. So it's like more food for us, and then you guys can, like with their slaves, but they have like undead fighters, and they're usually the front line that they send out to fight. And
that's very interesting.
Witherlings are kind of cool.
That's a very interesting philosophy. But yeah, like we said, Gnoll society, everything rounds around that. Doing as little labor as possible, eating as much as possible, and in some slight way, reproduce and populate. This is more prevalent with the origin of Lamashu, because Lamashu is kind of her tenets to be many, but I mean, still when the origin is Yenogu, it still applies. Gnolls like to be many, to reproduce, and infest.
You mentioned something about them taking in slaves, and I had also read somewhere around there that they also have allies. They usually ally with before they would ally with orcs, or they would be with like some kind of somebody in the goblin order or other kind of humanoid monsters. But at the same time, they would have those same creatures as their slaves. So I think it's kind of like If I can overtake you, then you'll be my slave. If I can't, then I'll try to be buddy with you and take advantage of it.
Yeah, they had to be properly dominated. Yeah, in a mixed monster society, so to speak. Yeah, they would follow a really stronger leader until that leader is slightly stronger. Yeah, if they lose, yeah, the Gnolls. Yeah, it gives me vibes of the end of The Lion King. When Scar and the hyenas,
they're tired of his shit.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of Gnolls. Do pull that part. Do serve that role.
Now there's an interesting description within the 5th edition Monster Manual. If you'll allow me to read it, it says that Gnolls are dangerous because they strike at random. They emerge from the wilderness, plunder and slaughter, and then they move elsewhere. So they're like this roaming band of death and miasma. They attack.
Probably thinking about smegma or something like that.
Yo, what the? Anyway, they attack like a plague of locusts, pillaging settlements and leaving little behind but raised building, gnawed corpses, and befouled land. I love that description. I think it's perfect for Gnolls.
How would they befoul the land?
With leaving all the carcasses and all their filth and all their abysmal funk behind.
Yeah, probably the abysmal funk bit. Yeah,
I want a shirt that says abysmal funk.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
I got to get one of those made. They also say that there is no goodness or compassion within the hearts of Gnolls. Like demons, they lack anything resembling a conscience and cannot be taught or coerced to put aside its destructive tendencies. So, I mean, this kind of like ipso facto doesn't let you have a Gnoll companion.
No, not really, unless you're able to dominate it.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
You know, that's something I kind of miss from Eberron, and I know you're more familiar with Eberron than me. There's, I think, a break within the mythology there with Yenogu, and then some branch off and form their own societies and actually work and trades and I guess like minor smithing and other crafts and stuff. That's something I do actually miss from Eberron.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe in your game, well, when we talk about your specific game, you can talk about it, but yeah, it's something that maybe you can explore in a game.
Yeah. It also goes on to say that the Gnolls' frenzied bloodlust makes them an enemy to all, and when they lack a common foe, they fight amongst themselves. Even the most savage orcs avoid allying with Gnolls. I wonder how that's going to work out in the new edition.
Yeah, the new role of orcs is going to be interesting.
Now, just to add a little bit more, because we are going to mention a little bit on how we would use them or ideas that we have for using Gnolls in the adventures. There are a couple other monsters that are related to them that you can pick up and use in your games. The Hyenodons, I mean, they're prehistoric, but you can always bring them back. There are creatures called Lucrotas. I don't know if you know about them.
Yes.
They can mimic vocal like sounds of other people and lure them in and attack them.
Yeah, they're kind of Gnolls, but they're more same version that Gnolls are mixed men and hyena, but they're more hyena-like, and they walk on fours, and yeah, but their main thing is that they can be almost indistinguishable from any person.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And something that I'm probably going to butcher the name of again, called Shosuvas,
Yeah.
which are hyena-shaped demons that are gifted to powerful Gnolls as gifts from Yenogu after victorious battles.
Yeah.
So, how would you implement a Gnoll in an adventure or in a campaign setting or something? You have any ideas?
Well, yeah, first of all, like we talked, I mean, to make references of media, immediately Gnolls make me think of the 13th Warrior, which is a very old movie. I don't know if, as Middle-Aged Barbarians, we have seen a lot of old movies. But basically, the point of the movie is there's this mysterious force that is ravaging lands up in the north. Right? There's mysterious lands that nobody knows what has ravaged it because there aren't many survivors, and the few survivors that are, they just say about like a horde of evil things that come and eat everything.
All right.
In the movie, it's actually like a prehistoric sort of tribe of cannibals, but I mean, Gnolls fit the bill perfectly. This sort of kind of mysterious, unreasonable thing. That's one of the main roles I would put them. Something else could be lieutenants. They could be lieutenants in a mixed monster army, but like we said, they tend to betray. So I don't know how you could work with that.
Yeah, I mean, I repeat, I don't know what the deal with orcs will be now, if there are even still a valid monster to be used, because I think they've taken more of a player character role. So, you know, we don't want to get any trouble there with orc genocide, which I think gives Gnolls a really good chance of taking a more center stage and becoming that iconic enemy that the players can get around, especially with the way they're describing them as being vicious and savage and hungry and just ravaging on and on and on. I've always thought of them like probably like a really good side quest for the characters to go out. Like maybe they'll, like you mentioned, like there's something, just obliterating towns and nobody follows, and whoever goes gets lost. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to become a more center staged monster. So that's I'm
for
really happy
real
about that.
I mean, it's a discussion we had with our friend Daniel a lot. The concept of evil, there's no longer like obvious evil. Even kind of,
I don't know, man, but if you have your own domain in the Abyss named after you, I think that kind of qualifies you as evil.
As evil, I don't know. What's Inogu's motivation?
He's hungry.
He's hungry, yeah. Very primal. Another use is, like you said, something interesting is when they do something unexpected. So perhaps if you first establish them as this sort of barbaric thing and so forth, and then you see the Gnolls acting very organized and disciplined, you can see that there's something amiss. Maybe something managed to organize the Gnolls, something so powerful managed to dominate them and to put them into order.
Or maybe there's another means of domination there.
Yeah,
Not
and
just convincing them, which wouldn't work, but maybe there's a magical
a
coercion.
magical way, a magical coercion. Yeah, so I mean, there are many interesting things you can do, as well as first setting them up as this role of barbaric, and then subverting those expectations.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so basically that's how we would use them. I mean, mainly I'm guessing the point that we want to get is you can be kind of forget about that moral ambiguity. They're just baddies that are, I mean, they can be a lot of fun as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, hyena-headed monsters is inherently hilarious and fun. So yeah, I'm guessing that's it. So that's the end of the video. If you haven't already, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And please feel free to leave us your comments, suggestions, and questions below.
Also, you can follow us on our other social media like Instagram and TikTok, and come join us on our Discord channel on the ND Hobbies server. Links in the description below.
And as always, remember to rage responsibly. We'll see you in the next episode.
Roll the dice!